Welcome to ABC News Live. We have breaking news for you. Harvey Weinstein is heading to prison. Judge James Burke in New York City just delivered the sentence, 23 years. Weinstein was eligible for anywhere between 5 and 29 years in prison. The former movie producer was convicted last month on a first-degree criminal sexual act and third-degree rape. Let's get right to Ariel Reshef, who's live outside the Manhattan courtroom. Ariel?
Hi there, Diane. This is seen as a severe sentence and perhaps a watershed moment for the Me Too movement. Harvey Weinstein sentenced to 23 years behind bars, 20 years for criminal sexual assault, 3 years for third-degree rape. Those sentences to be served consecutively. He had been facing up to 29 years bars, the judge showing very little mercy for Harvey Weinstein, saying that he will now be categorized as a sexual predator and as a sexual offender. We know the prosecutors had called Weinstein's criminality something that had been sustained over the course of many, many years and had been unchecked for decades. Weinstein did appear in a wheelchair today. He addressed the court for the first time. We did not see him testify in his own defense during the trial, but today he did speak today. And he said that the Me Too movement, he likened it to the Red Scare of the 1950s, saying that many men have been accused now just like him and without due process and fair trial. He said that he barely showed any remorse, frankly, Diane, hardly any contrition from Harvey Weinstein as he faces now those 23 years. In a powerful moment, some of his accusers walked into court today, flanked by the prosecution, Mimi Haley and Jessica Mann, the two women upon whom their testimony convicted Harvey Weinstein on those two charges, both of them delivering very emotional victim impact statements, saying that those sexual assaults that occurred many years ago had really had this lasting impact on their lives, Diane. And this is truly a severe sentence, something Judge Burke handed down with a serious conviction. And now we will see Harvey Weinstein head to a processing facility where he will be evaluated medically. There are 3 facilities here in New York where he could be housed, prisons in New York that could take care of him because he is 67 years old in relatively poor health. And that is something that the defense had tried to focus on, tried to get some degree of mercy from the judge. That did not happen today, Diane.
A big day for the prosecution, a big day for those victims. Ariel Reshef from the courtroom. We appreciate it, Ariel. Thanks. And now let's get some legal analysis on the sentence and the pending case in California. Criminal defense attorney Julie Rendelman joins me now on the phone. Julie, what do you think about this sentence?
So I admit I was probably the one that was not surprised. My expectation was that he was going to give him anywhere between 15 and 20 with regards to the criminal sexual assault, and that he was going to give consecutive time for the second accuser. And the reason I thought that was that I think that the judge wanted to make sure that Harvey Weinstein and the public knew that he was separating those sentences to make sure he's held separately responsible for each of them. And that's why he did it as a consecutive versus concurrent. So I thought that was quite telling in terms of how the judge felt about, the evidence that came forward and the need for serious jail time when it came to both of these cases.
You may have expected it, but it sounds like that was not the general sentiment among legal experts. The general estimates seem to be coming on the lower end of this range. So what kind of a message do you think that this sends for other cases like this going forward?
Well, I think one of the things that's interesting is that, the defense harped on the idea that he had no criminal record. And I think one of the things that stood out, I assume, to the judge was he had no criminal record, arguably because he never got caught over all these years. And I think that is something that the judge considered when he made a determination as to what the appropriate sentence was. Now, how this reflects other cases where a defendant is accused similarly, I'm not sure, because, Harvey Weinstein is unique in the sense that he was able to get away with this for so many years. Times are changing, and we hope that people will be willing to come forward and will be heard by law enforcement much quicker.
And we know that he also has this pending trial in California. What happens next now that this sentencing is given in New York?
So he's going to have to go to L.A. And so the question is he going to serve his New York time in L.A. or is he going to serve it here? My guess is they're going to bring him to L.A. because it's going to be impossible to bring him back and forth. And he is then going to have to face trial there. Now, some people think that he's going to plead guilty because of what happened here. I don't think there's a chance of that because I think that he has a strong appeal. Once he gets to California, if he is convicted on the rape alone, he's looking at a maximum of 8 years. And a judge there can give him concurrent time with what he's doing in New York or can give him an additional 8 years on top of the 23 years he's already serving.
All right, Julie Rendelman, we appreciate your analysis. Thanks, Julie. And now we want to go back over to Ariel, who's there outside the courtroom. Ariel, having been in the courtroom when all of this was happening, what was the tone like? What were the emotions like in the courtroom as Harvey Weinstein himself addresses the court and then the victims get to hear this sentence come down?
Well, Diane, you can imagine the tension, amount of emotion that led up to this event, culminating with Harvey Weinstein being sentenced to those 23 years behind bars. Remember that the maximum here was 29 years, so very little difference there. If you look at the degree of sentencing, we know that Harvey Weinstein declared himself, quote, totally confused by this verdict, by the Me Too movement, which he said appeared like McCarthyism, as I mentioned, as the Red Scare of the 1950s, saying that it's basically deprived other men, thousands of them, according to him, of due process. Weinstein also casting himself, though, as an empathetic character who is a father of several children, saying that he will now not be able to be in contact with those children and that he has essentially had this historic fall from grace since 2017, has been convicted in the court of public opinion, but now has been convicted in this court of law, Diane, and now sentenced. Well,
it's a fall from grace, that's for sure. 23 years for Harvey Weinstein, and he still has another trial to face in California. Ariel Reshef, you've been covering it all for us. Great work, Ariel. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us. That's all for us for this report, but we will have more on this story and all of today's top stories on abcnewslive.com. We'll also be back here at noon for the latest on the coronavirus. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Stay safe.